So if you want to move forward, we're going to form like a little circle in the front. We're like a little fishbowl. And Phillip, you're going to take a seat and we'll push these tables back so we can have a circle. So are we forming a circle? Are you in a circle?
This would be.
That could not make it better. I'm just curious. Oh, yeah. Is it if you're currently taking or? Yeah.
So just if you need another chair. Okay. So your job in the back is to watch and take notes. Are you in the circle or outside of the circle? You're in the circle. Okay, so let's make sure and make room. So Melanie, I want to introduce you. You're our special guest.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come.
Actually, you say who you are, how much, what are your experiences with TPRS?
Okay, my name is Melanie, and I teach Spanish at North Dakota High School.
And Chelsea in the background noise, if you need it, Faith and Chelsea, but otherwise we need you to be quiet.
Sorry. About 3 years ago, I saw Bob Patrick in a conference, and he did a Latin lesson that made me say, I need to know about this method, TPRS. And then I met Karen Rowan in another conference, and then I said, oh my gosh, I really have to learn this. And I went to a conference, and we have been implementing it. This is the second year we're implementing it in our high school classes. I teach upper levels, 3, 4, and 5, so they don't look exactly like this. It's not as pure as TPRS that I would use in like a beginning lesson. So that's who I am. And I want to say your enthusiasm and your kindness is so evident when you're teaching.
Can we give him a
Too much too soon. I have 4 more weeks of this.
No, but I just can tell your heart and where you're coming from is in a very awesome place that makes your students want to be receptive to what you're saying. You can tell that. Don't lose that in the next 4 or 5 weeks. I had written down the gestures of the correction, but then you self-corrected and really had us come up with the gestures. I was just confused if you wanted to do a hand raise versus the stop that you corrected that. That was awesome. I would suggest that you teach how do you say in English and how do you say in Arabic, and that will help you in your content. Like just write that on the board, and every time you say it, you can just point to it. And then it's colorful. I like all your colors. I just don't know if it means anything. So do you have a method to your madness, or is it just, I heard just write them in different colors?
The method is write them in different colors, pretty much. Yeah, that's something that I had learned from Dr. Patrick, that kind of the taking the time to write them in different colors, it forces you to slow down.
Yes.
And slowing down is and continues to be like the hardest thing about doing this.
Yes.
In every sense, lesson planning, speaking, teaching, everything. You want to go a million miles an hour because there's so much you want to teach them, and you have to take precautions to slow yourself down.
Yeah, I would just suggest pick one color for English or something.
I think that's a good
You can
idea.
pick other colors if you want, or pick one. You know, the one. Pick one. That would be my suggestion. And Misha said this, like, you cannot repeat. You cannot say this stuff. We have no familiarity.
Yeah, no.
I couldn't, so even though you're thinking, oh my God, I've already said my name is, like, you could have done 10 people.
Yeah.
It would have been okay with me.
Yeah.
I wasn't bored. I was still trying to listen and really hear what you were saying, the pronunciation and that. So
That is good feedback, because you're right.
you feel like, oh my God,
Projecting your own understanding onto the students is very, very, you have to decontextualize yourself from that, and that's something I'm continuing to work on. But those are good notes, thank you.
Do you want to write things down, or do you want to just hold me up paper?
Yeah, I'll just jot that down.
So I would just say reinforce those great feedback, colors.
Here's the wedge, and here's the homework. No one was lucky enough to. So.
The colors, I've consistently seen that the target language, except when we learned there is a system in Mandarin where you use different colors for different tones. It adds a level of complexity that you do not articulate to novice learners. You just do it, and then over time, you're reinforcing that coo and coo, coo and cool and coo are in different places, and so you have one, you know, but I don't know if Arabic has that, and I think that it's very busy on the eyes to have the color.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to be a what you did wrong, what you did wrong. You did so much right. The hats, were they not the most compelling? You just, it was so clever and so like.
I still can't believe you called the dollar on that one. That was really impressive.
So what we do in my poetry class, which I'm teaching in the spring, I think of this as deeply artful practice. And so when you write a poem in that class and you are scared about it and vulnerable about it, you then take a vow of silence and you listen to how it was received and you take the feedback. So I'm gonna ask you to take a vow of silence. You can talk back for sure, but I think you may be more receptive if you hear us talk about what we saw, and then you just take in that feedback, and then we can have a conversation about it afterwards, and you can write down questions for clarification or whatever. But I think we should talk, as those of us who have studied this method. I mean, I feel like I am still a novice. I've watched experts, I've experienced experts. I have no language classroom of my own to try it out, other than a little bit here and there with my family or when I was abroad this past summer. But I'm really still just a rigorous observer. So other things that we can talk about. So I wanted to build on, you mentioned repetition. Those of you that have studied, how much repetition did Phillip give? Was it enough? Did you want more? How did you assimilate that experience of what was repeated? How did he repeat it? Were you actually sure if you put a 4 or 5, all that kind of stuff?
Well, I don't know if Phillip noticed this, but like maybe he can give some sign with his eyes since he's silently receiving this. But I would often give like 1, and then I'd think about it, and I'd give a 3, and then I'd finally be like, oh, 5! I do actually notice. So it took me time, like, and actually with that assessment, maybe doing it more slowly would give me time to think about each word, and like I went through and I was unfortunately translating a bit literally in my mind, like, okay, shoe, I know that means what, and then, you know, I know ayah is which, and like putting them together into a sentence, and I'm like, oh no, I do know how to form that together, so.
And if he maybe had used some of the examples in class, like, you know, Al has, I don't even know the word now, you know.
Yeah, if he had connected it to what we had done, like, Al, like, if he had put a pronoun like Shu Ismak Jessica or something, like, then I'd be like, wow, I definitely know what that is.
I like the first part of the assessment, I was like, oh yeah, I know, boom, 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 all right. And then as soon as we got to that over there, I was like, oh, I'm sure one of those is wants, maybe it's had, I don't even know. And was it even wants or has? So there I realized that I was starting to just get lost. I could not differentiate. Versus here, I was like, ooh, sheep crowd. So I think that we had a lot more repetition here. And what I think would have helped for me is once they pick things up from the hat, there needed to be more interaction between us. So then we could have been, you know, like, I want this, or whatever we were wanting to concentrate on. We could have really worked on that more instead of just people coming up and taking it and sitting down. I think that like, when I think back to like with the bears, when we were doing it with Dr. Patrick, that stood out to me as stealing people's things. You know, and it was more fun that way. Remember, like it was, you know, so we started getting into it, and then I was really paying attention, but I was starting to get lost in the different meanings there. So the repetition got lost for me over there.
Others had that similar experience, or yes, no?
It's like I can remember most of this wall, but for that it's kind of too complicated. It's like
different forms.
yeah, it's like we're starting like for sentences that's just too hard. But I do know some parts of the sentence, so I think maybe you could just like assess which part of the sentence we know and which part we don't. Like that.
What might have been useful for me personally would be to have, like, yes, mostly things at the beginning were like that, but then later, it would have been helpful to have the words from a category together. So once we got to the objects, they were scattered everywhere, and it was difficult. Like here, it was really clear, but the questions are here, you could see. But then on the other side, it's not also really well put into categories, and that's why maybe it was difficult to find them.
So maybe having a paper that's ready for nouns like cow and dog and the hat.
Or even if you were writing them on the spot, but at least you had space over there, try them all together,
Yeah.
not different.
Yeah. A lot of times people will have signs for interjections, moombas, excellent, they'll have, and it's really a lot of pre-planning. People will say with TPRS, there's not a lot to do with the grading necessarily. You can do assessments grading is a challenge for a lot of people that use this method, period. But a lot of work goes into pre-thinking and chunking, and a lot of that is by doing and really thinking, what do you have, what do you need to change, take pictures of your board before you leave, change the handwriting, and don't say you don't have funds. I've got access to all kinds of materials and things, so all you need to do is plan enough in advance that I can help you for next week to have it ready, And we had a couple of students in this class made use of, we have this wonderful, laminating thing, and it wasn't so hard to do.
Yeah.
Is it so easy? But you could take advantage of that supply that we have access to and create some enduring materials.
I'm gonna have to go, but I would suggest you do the hat thing again next time.
Yes.
I would just,
Don't do
save
it,
some
don't leave
planning.
it. That's right.
You can milk that for a very long time.
Yes.
And I would not be bored.
To go over have, once.
Have one,
Gives.
get, yes. How
All
with
of
all
that.
these pronouns, like, wow.
Yes,
Yes.
brilliant. Thank you,
Less is
Melody.
more. Well, I think so.
Less is more.
That's, oh my gosh.
Less is more. There was, I felt, what I felt with these students, when you were doing your games, such a rush to get more language in. Oh my God, but as a learner, do you feel that, what do you see as a learner about this concept of less and more? Anyone outside the circle can answer too. You know what I mean? What does that mean for you now? Faith, Chelsea, Al?
I really wanted to be able to talk.
Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah.
To my
Yes.
neighbor, I just wanted to turn to someone and tell them, like, I learned how to say my name is, and I was so excited, and I couldn't, but that's my personality. And so not everyone is like that. And so that was, I guess, my question, does TPRS, like, I didn't see any of the videos, people turning, maybe I watched the different ones, but.
The
turning and
emphasis is on
talking.
choral, like,
Okay.
does Al have the bear? Iowa le, like that kind of choral response. And you'll have some learners who are burning to output,
Yeah.
and that's good, and they will, like I did that too, because I'm like that too, and I wanted the dollar. So I just jumped in, and some learners will do that, and a TPRS teacher will then go, oh, okay, Faith is one of those. Misha's one of those. They like to be called on, they like to be put on the spot. And then there was someone else over here that stood up and gave like a kind of, I can't produce that, maybe it was you, Jenny, I can't remember.
Was it Dorina?
Was it Dorina?
I
Somebody?
think it was Chelsea. Yeah, she
No, he had somebody go over and he was gonna make her say, you have to, I remember a moment, that's why we have this video, and we were asking somebody to say, I want, and he went over to Al.
I think it was Chelsea.
Was it?
Yeah.
She gave good answers.
It was at the end though, she had squirrels, so I don't think it was like the squirrel moment. We'll have to look at the tape, there was somewhere where I thought you were trying to encourage output with maybe a student who wasn't ready or, yeah,
Oh,
I don't know.
can I remove the gag temporarily?
Is it Jenny with the shoe maybe?
I don't
There
remember.
was one time where I caught myself starting to ask for output, and I just answered it for her. It was all a blur,
There
but
was
I
a
remember that.
pun with the shoe, and you said, oh, shoe, oh, I just asked you what you want, and we were like, oh no, it's the shoe. We already answered your question, and some of us got it, and some of us didn't. So some of us were laughing, but some of us were confused.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a moment.
That was
That's why
one
we
thing.
catch these things on tape,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
like you can relive and see,
Mhm.
and you'll see so many things you didn't know.
Just real quick. There was one time I felt myself starting to ask someone a question, and I realized, oh gosh, they're gonna, I'm gonna drop them. And so I started answering it for them literally as soon as I finished asking the question. And so that's one thing that I remember doing.
There is another thing that you can perhaps encourage us to answer more questions despite I want or they. You can ask some questions to let us to practice. I want though more complete
Mhm.
than those questions.
Yeah.
And there's a little detail of repetition I want to add in, because I can really remember easily, but as for that question, I'm not getting with that, because if I want to ask other people's name, it's really hard for me to output that question, because I didn't get a chance to repeat to practice. Then I just considering whether just like you ask one classmate, and then you can just invite that classmate to ask another person, then he can or she can just use that question.
Well, I'll say your thinking is a little bit like Faith's in that manner, and that's a different classroom environment expects immediately for students to learn something and try it out. This method really advocates input, input,
Mhm.
input. And when you have enough input, you will leave class with it filling, you will overflow with that sensing.
Silent
And
period.
then some of the students will voluntarily become producers and make the teacher, if you give the space for it, will all of a sudden become articulate in this environment. But
Mhm.
I feel the message to you, Phillip, is there wasn't enough input. That you were trying to move through your plan, but what you need to do is check,
Mhm.
have ways, watch the blog, look at Ben Slavic's blog, everybody, for in the moment assessments that tell you what do 3 students know, that you're quick learners, she's gonna know everything, she's so fast at learning languages. But I am like to think I'm fast, but I'm actually slow. And then someone else who's like, and whatever, there's no, it's all good,
Mhm.
but you're keeping your eye on, is everybody with you or how you feel?
Oh, go ahead.
Then it's not necessary to ask them to output, but if they really want, you can just give them space.
Mhm.
Like, if do you want to ask this question? Yes, I want, then give the space, so yeah, more space.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in my repertoire and my comfort zone to use gestures. I will admit that. But I feel,
And you teach Italian.
yes, I feel very, no, okay.
I know what you mean.
I use gestures, but I'm not a role player and I'm not a theater and use gestures. But what I can tell you is that I remember everything that we learned. Yay, whoa.
One, two.
Yes, I can remember all of it from those 2 hours from 2 years ago, and I'm already starting to forget some of the things from Latin that we did for 5 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yes, I can still talk about I can still do it in my head,
Yeah.
because I can picture them, because then we had pictures that we drew, so I think,
But he didn't use gestures.
he didn't use gestures, did he?
Interesting.
No,
No.
he did, but he didn't really instruct them.
No, so
He just used
the
them.
things that I can really remember are the things when we had to draw them, so I think that they're for some, but I can still, and I tell you what, that little girl was like, she won, like the whole thing, I can still do it, but with the gestures. And I'm not able to do as much with the Latin, even though we spent more time. So I would think maybe with this kind of stuff, since you already have these gestures here, why don't we just follow them once? Like if we're all seeing the gesture and we do that, I think it will, something, I
Yeah,
give
it has
to
its
you, good, bad.
There's tons of examples of it, yeah.
So these, again, I said, for me teaching, I would have trouble, but I really now feel I can still remember the stuff only because, and I can't stop myself from doing it.
So repetition with a kinesthetic connection had an impact. That is what many say, and it is hard, but if you have the students help you. In that class and in many environments, you can even say, what's a good gesture for has class? And we can do it. It's like, that's the beauty of improv. And then, okay, let's practice it. Oh yeah, I forgot, what's the gesture for has? You don't have to be in control of it all the time. You can also just ask a student to help. Sometimes I've been in classes where in Spanish, the word for who is quien, who. So one teacher I watched said every time she would say, clase, quien, and then she would have one student volunteer to hoot like an owl. Whoo, whoo. And it just was like background. Her job. Clase, quien, quien tiene el dólar, you know, whatever it is. Who has this, you know. So anyhow.
Phillip did a great job with the him for the last
Gotcha.
Well, but the thing was, you were so good about saying please that I never really caught it. But yeah, you were very polite. I mean, but that actually made me focus on those polite words. And when you did the post assessment, I was like, I do remember Shakaran. I do remember so much.
Yeah.
I have a question somehow because we are just started to study about TPRS. So, about regarding the pronunciation of these sounds that you don't know. I don't know. Maybe if it's not something suitable for this method to explain the sound, maybe it would have been better if you repeat it and then emphasize the syllable, like in, even now I don't know how you pronounce that thing, because it's, I don't know what the, what
Is
the
it
sound.
a different letter? What is
Yes.
that?
Yeah. I thought
And the same with this 7 and T.
Yeah.
This thing right here really threw me off.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
So like emphasize that part so you can understand what sound is there.
Yeah.
For me, it's, I'm a visual learner. It would help me to
Right.
connect the sound with what I see.
Right. That was something that I actually have in my lesson plan. That's one of the things that I wrote, and I think I just like went past it, because I think I got worried about, and this is kind of a theme of going too fast. I got worried about getting through everything I planned, and that's, you know.
You could do all of this probably for 5 weeks with us. You could create a story. I mean, the stories are, you know, who wants this dollar? You know, who has the dollar?
Yeah.
Where, I don't know. I mean, I'm just imagining very basic structure of a story. And that's where I don't know the stories well enough, and maybe you guys have ideas of, already have studied the storylines, but there are some inherited stories or ones you might imagine that are very simple. And we would probably be happy to learn all these words, and that would be enough. And I bet you have many more things planned. So we'll see.
Got some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I share a couple thoughts? I kind of think it would be helpful for y'all to hear what it feels like from my end, because I speak this language fluently, and and this is going to terrify Misha, I had twice as many words planned for the first week, and I think even the amount that I have now was too much. It is incredible when you guys go on to teach the beginning level. It's incredible how much you will think they know. 2 weeks ago, I was looking over my lesson plans and it just crashed over me. Oh my gosh, they don't know any of this. And I was like, I got up my pen and just started I was like, not important, they don't need that. And even as we were going through it today, it felt like I was trying to carry like a baby bird in my hands. It was so, because it honestly, where we're at right now, and this is something Dr. Patrick mentioned last week, at the first day, coming in on the first day, if they get the sense from day one that they understand the language, you're setting them up on a huge trajectory. But if they leave on day one thinking that I'm confused, you've crushed them. So it's like I'm trying to, comprehensibility isn't just about like effective learning, it's about like protecting their confidence. And that was something that, and continues to be my goal, is to protect your confidence. I want you guys to feel confident. And the hearing that like there was some almost like bubbling over where it's like I wanted to start speaking, that means the world to me. That encourages me so much. Like I have spent months preparing for this. And so to hear that there at least are some of you guys that felt confident after day one is like a win for me. There's definitely a lot of work to do, but I'm just as like, I'm like a novice, like we said, and so this is very exciting and terrifying at the same time for me. So this is, y'all's feedback is immensely helpful.
Dr. Cahnmann-Taylor or Phillip, okay, so it was a very difficult moment when you said to put away our notebooks because I really love to write everything down and it was like losing a security blanket. But I understand it's important to this method. Like, are there any suggestions you have like for people like me that like just love to write everything down in our own way and like, I don't know, like when I see students like that are like me and I'm like, I see them like, what, I want to write this down, like, I don't know, like maybe it's too distracting, like, or can it be beneficial to write things down, or what are your thoughts?
Well, when we worked with Dr. Patrick in the Latin class last year, there were some exercises that we introduced that involved writing. And I think those were, and like, they don't come on day one because it's just a lot of absorption has to take place. But after like the third class, even with a small amount, it's like, okay, we've started part of a story and want you guys to write down the story as you remember it. And so that's your chance to just go wild on that. And honestly, there's nothing in me that's telling you you are not allowed to go home and write down this stuff.
It's just harder when it's not like right in
In
front
the
of me,
moment.
like I want to copy things down, like I want to, I don't know. So.
Yeah, it reminds me that last time I took the Dr. Brain's lecture, and it's just a really good way just prepare PowerPoint print out and the words you need, just like prepare for you and don't worry about that. I will over to you after class. So all you do is just focus on the class because you will not miss anything because I will provide for you after class. So that's a good way, I think.
Can we take pictures too?
Yeah.
Yes. She's at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't keep you from doing that.
I realize so much questions that about TPRS itself. What is about TPRS? Because we are all traditional learners. We want to practicing after. We want to take notes. We want everything. We want to have a list to know what you are expect. But we have to know more about TPRS itself, and so that we can be a good learner of TPRS, because we are all traditional learners.
Yeah, and the difficult thing about this is that almost everyone in this room has come from a learning background that was very rote in some way. Some of us, like I know Chelsea was in Montessori school, so she has that advantage. But a lot of us came from a very linear, very, decontextualized language learning environment. And it's hard to break out of that. Even if you see all these ideas and like, this is amazing, I want to do this. And when you start trying to, you see old habits your memories are starting to come back. They're coming out of you. And it's like, oh, this is the very thing I tried to not do. And that takes time. It takes and it takes feedback.
I just have a question. How important do you think it would be in teaching the actual sounds for these letters? Because we're talking about maybe taking a picture or having something printed out. But I can take that home and I'm like, I have no idea what that 3 means. But I know that you want to just have copious amounts of input, so you don't want to focus too much on the letters. So would you introduce that?
So first I want to restate, I am not an expert. You are required to join Ben Slavic's blog for a reason. Phillip is not an expert. He's a really great novice with a lot of energy, but you're learning and we're giving feedback. And the way we can give feedback is to watch other experts. So watch Ben Slavic, watch Brent Blaine Ray, If you're not sure what to watch, I've just re-upped my membership and I will send you some favorite links, and you can too, hold that.
Yeah, I'm watching.
Someone asked about the sound systems, how can we learn? I think that was a missed opportunity, he recognizes that.
Yeah.
We're gonna start with that next time.
Yeah, there are 2 sounds on it, not like
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah, and again, input, 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 if we hear it a lot, we repeat it a lot, and we have a whole thing of who has this and who wants it, we will absorb that sound system in the same way, I think, as I learned with little bits of Mandarin, that the production quality, the tonal quality is so superior to a traditional model studying it in written form. Like, I mean, forgive me, Lei, the example I still have from me, wrote down, he was trying to teach me the sounds and the tones in Mandarin and put them all on the board, and I was like, oh, I hate that way of learning. Like, I refuse it. Once I got a taste of how, this is joyful. It's like a speedy, joyful way, and that's the traditional way that we work hard, and the 2 or 4% of us go through that brutal rite of passage and arrive at some degree of fluency. So if you just want to reach 2 to 4%, or the best and brightest of Harvard, then you will go that route. But if you want your 90% of your regular students to around, we have to do something differently. I think TPRS has a lot of answers. I think they also have a lot of problems. I think that there's a lack of deep consideration of homework and writing things down and practice and some output input, I think don't throw the baby out with the bathwater is an expression in English. It means don't take the good stuff from the past and just get rid of it and take whatever's new because it seems better and faster. So I'm interested in, Queenie, you made this comment, I like my old way. Yeah. I think we as critical consumers of new method X, new curriculum Y, we need to think, okay, how can we take the best of all of these worlds and make use of them? How do we slow down, repeat? We're begging you, I'm begging you for more of the same, and to watch the experts and cycle, because, and you know what I mean by cycle. Who has the shoe? Al has the shoe. Does Chelsea have the shoe? No. Chelsea, what does Chelsea have? Chelsea has the squirrel. Who wants the squirrel? Oh, all of a sudden Tom raises her hand. I want the squirrel. Does Jessica want the squirrel? No, Tom wants the squirrel. We could do that all day. It sounds so dumb in the one language you know, but in a it's not
I just have a comment related to that and to what Phillip said before about wanting to give more. During the first lessons, I had recently, a couple of months ago, students who just started studying English, and I was getting bored of repeating, what's your name,
Yeah.
and then it became frustrating when they were confusing things.
Yeah.
But then when today I was here and I had to look at Iowa and Lei 1,000 of times and I still couldn't remember them, I was like, I haven't been in the shoes of learning a new language for a long time. So
May I respond? May I respond to that?
Sure.
If teaching is a hobby, then yes, you being bored by teaching small phrases is a problem. But teaching is a service to the people in your class. So if you have to sacrifice, and that's the tough thing I'm still learning to do, you have to, it can be, I can do little things to make it more fun for myself, but if at the end of the day, it's boring to me and you guys learn it, that's my job.
So I'm gonna step in and say, it's your job to make it interesting to you. That's why I'm teaching these theater games. It is funny to see that Al has a shoe. It's funny that I got the $1. It's just, we hunger to laugh with each other, and we will create what's funny. I wanted to participate. If you were brave to participate, then I dare you next time. How do you get in there and be like, I don't want this, what did you get, Ugga? I want the cow, and make it, cow is Ugga. Okay, I want the Sinjab or whatever. That was really funny. Is there really dab? Is that?
I have a t-shirt design in mind for that.
That's really nice. So we need to take a short break and we need to switch gears. So I'm gonna say, keep having conversations, 5-10 minute break, and then we'll come back for part 2. Make sure he gets his flow.
Thanks, Phillip.